Al-Kindi's influential treatise on rays is more than a guide to performing magic. In fact, his work serves as a comprehensive theory that describes the very structure of the entire universe, with magic being a fundamental component of that structure. In Peter Poorman and Peter Adamson's analysis of on-rays, the two scholars identify key components of Kindi's stellar ray theory, including remote effects, the nature and diversity of rays, animal sacrifice, and deterministic causality. What I found interesting was that Djibril Diop Mambety's influential film Touki Bouki captures and expresses several of these concepts through instances of narrative and visual storytelling. In particular, Mambety uses animal slaughter and sacrifice to convey significant messages about the repercussions of colonization, while the film adopts a deterministic worldview due to the actions of specific characters. By exploring these moments, I aim to detail how Touki Bouki draws on and fits within the cosmology described by the stellar ray theory, and thus demonstrate how Touki Bouki is a film of magic itself. According to the stellar ray theory, animal sacrifice is the means by which a person can exert the strongest influence over rays in the universe. When an animal dies of natural causes, its rays slowly fade back into the heavenly harmony. However, when a magician kills an animal with sacrificial intent, the rays of that animal are released quickly and violently, an event referred to as the animal's central ruling unity. This central ruling unity creates a breach in reality, allowing the magician to enact their own will upon the universe. The magician harnesses the surge of energy created by the sacrifice and uses it to make their magical will more powerful. Much the same way, Djibril Diop Mambety uses imagery of animal slaughter in Touki Bouki to empower and increase the effectiveness of the messages in his film. The central theme of Touki Bouki's narrative is the struggle to find identity and belonging in a country that lacks a clear identity of its own. This stems from the fact that Senegal had only recently gained its independence from France before Touki Bouki's release. So, after hundreds of years of being heavily defined and influenced by external control, the nation was suddenly thrust into a position of having to develop its own character and qualities that would make it distinct in the world. The slaughterhouse scene in the beginning of the film accentuates this concept and serves as an allusion to the repercussions of African colonization on countries like Senegal. The cattle being butchered represent the atrocities committed against African peoples during European colonization, a colonization which is ultimately responsible for the struggle of identity we see in Touki Bouki. Though it is not exactly in a sacrificial context, I argued that the sheer brutality of what is unfolding on screen, specifically the visual of the cattle being slaughtered, lends the same kind of ruling unity power to the messages being conveyed by Mambety. This gives the scene magical properties which alter the world by altering the consciousnesses of the audiences so that they become aware of the horrors of colonization and its reverberating impact on African nations that continues to be felt in modern times. Determinism is the philosophical worldview that all events in reality, including human actions, are determined by causes we have no control over. This is because every action a person takes is either done for reasons or done for no reasons. If an action is done for reasons, that action is dictated by the desires of that person, but human beings cannot actually control what they desire. This means our actions do not stem from any kind of free will and are instead determined by wants we did not choose. If an action is done for no reason, then it is simply random, which means it does not emerge out of any free choice on our part either. Though citing different reasons, Al-Kindi's stellar ray theory also adopts determinism as the mode of causality for our universe. Kindi's reasoning is that all occurrences in the universe ultimately stem from what is called the heavenly harmony, which is the specific structure of the cosmos as established by the Creator. Because this structure cannot be changed, and nothing can contradict the divine order, all events that take place must therefore proceed by necessity. In other words, events could not happen in any other way. The narrative of Touki Bouki embodies deterministic causality due to the actions of protagonist Mori at the very end of the film. Throughout the story, Mori and his girlfriend Anta spend most of their time trying to gain the means to leave Dakar, Senegal, for France. To do this, the two enact various schemes and end up stealing the money they need for ship tickets. But, despite going through this tumultuous and dangerous journey to leave Dakar, when it comes time for the ship to cast off, Mori finds himself unable to join Anta on board and leaves frantically to find his motorcycle back in the city. It is at this moment that Maury's behavior falls in line with determinism. This is because Maury goes through so much to leave Dakar, but when he is directly faced with the options of either leaving for France or staying behind, he is simply unable to overcome his true desire to remain in the land of what he knows. Like all of us, Maury is a slave to his desires. This outcome fits into Al-Kindi's model of causality, and thus the larger magical framework he describes in the stellar ray theory. Maury's decision proceeds from the heavenly harmony, and therefore occurred by necessity. It always would have happened the way it did. The ways in which Touki Bouki draws upon and fits within the framework of Al-Kindi's stellar ray theory make it a fundamentally magical film. But more than this, Mambety successfully uses his film, which serves as a series of intervening images, to exert action at a distance by affecting change in the minds of his audiences so that they become aware of the effects of colonization on African nations like Senegal. This means that, in addition to being heralded as one of Africa's most powerful filmmakers, Djibril Diop Mambety can also be considered a successful sage and magician.